This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cardado welcoming you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, May the 3rd, 1970, was the greatest injury comeback in NBA Finals history. The New York Knicks would take on the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1970 NBA Finals. And it was a seesaw affair. It was a very tight affair. Because the Knicks and the Lakers both were huge. Because you got East Coast versus West Coast. All that. So anyway, a bit of background. The Knicks were number 1 in the East, and the Lakers were number 2 in the West. 4 teams from each conference would move on. The Knicks actually had a tough time against the Baltimore Bullets, soon to be called the Washington Bullets, or the Washington Wizards. Baltimore shocked everyone by taking the Knicks to Game 7. But the problem was that every home team won, so that meant the Knicks got it. The Knicks crushed the Bullets 127-114 in game number 7. In the Western semifinals, the Lakers would take on Phoenix. And Phoenix actually took the Lakers to game 7. They actually had a 3-2 series lead. The 3-1 series lead the Suns did. I didn't know that the Suns had a 3-1 series lead on the Lakers in the 1970 playoffs. And then the Lakers won twice on home turf and, of course, at Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Despite Connie Hawkins' best efforts, Will Chamberlain was just that much better. In the Eastern Final, the Knicks would take on the Bucks. And one minor hiccup, the Knicks did win the title, 132-96. So they were going to the finals. The Lakers would face Atlanta, who somehow, in some strange reason, were in the Western Division, despite the fact that Atlanta is very much east, and it's close to the Atlantic Ocean. Kind of like the Falcons being put in the NFC West from 1966 onwards, till it finally got rectified in 2002 that they should be in the South, or at least the East. Anyway, the Lakers swept Atlanta into fine powder. So that meant the Knicks and Lakers would face each other in the final. It was a seesaw affair. Game 1 saw the Knicks on home turf win 124-112, thanks to Willis putting up 37 points. Game 2 saw the Lakers come back to beat the Knicks 105-103, thanks to Jerry West's 34 points. However, Game 3 would be also remembered for something big. The Knicks were up by 2 points with like 2 seconds left. Jerry West would hit a 60-foot shot to tie it at 102 and force overtime. But you'll be asking yourself, hang on a minute, you said the Knicks were up by 2. And West heaved it from 60 feet to tie it and force overtime. That should be the winner for the Lakers. Actually, no, because before 1979, there was no three-point line. So, in 1979, there was the three-point line was introduced. That would have won the game, but because of pre-1979 rules, it only tied the game. And the Knicks went on to win in overtime anyway. Willis Reed again, the captain, with 38 points. Game 4 saw the Lakers get their revenge in overtime, 121-115, thanks to Jerry West. However, Game 5 was critical as Willis Reed suffered a massive Achilles injury. The Knicks did win the game 107-100, but sadly, though, Willis got hurt. All that. So Willis Reed had a thigh injury. He couldn't play Game 6. That was the perfect catalyst for the Lakers to use to take down the Knicks in Game 6, because without Willis Reed in his dominating defense, they could run a roughshod over the Knicks, and they did practically. Will Chamberlain put up 45 points and 27 rebounds. And then came Game 7. In fact, the 1970 NBA Finals was the first to be televised in full, coast to coast in the U.S., with ABC providing the coverage. This was before, the Al Michaels. The legendary Chris Schenkel, who would broadcast many sports, including bowling, was the play-by-play man with Jack Twyman, the color analyst. So anyway, it was huge and all that. Unfortunately, though, New York City could not see Game 7 for some strange reason, even though it was on the WABC feed and all that. ABC's coverage was blacked out. I guess because it was not a sellout. But the fans were ugly and would deluge the switchboard and all that. Schenkel made an announcement during the broadcast that the game would be in New York at 11:30 p.m. and all that. Strangely enough, MSG Network, which was a premium channel at the time, which was only available by 25,000 households in Manhattan, actually carried the game live and in full. So it was all about Game 7. Willis Reed needed to be at his absolute best and all that. But a lot of people thought that Reed wouldn't be able to play because of his thigh injury that cost him Game 6. But he arrived almost at the last second to join his Knicks teammates. And although it must be said, he played 27 minutes. I thought he only played 2 minutes of that game. Willis Reed scored the first 2 buckets of that game. I didn't know Reed played for 27 minutes. I thought he only played for a few minutes. But regardless, Willis Reed putting up those 2 buckets was actually the catalyst, and the New York Knicks easily win 113-99. They were crushing the Lakers in the first half, winning by 27 at the half. The Lakers did chip it away, but they only lost by 14. While Clyde Frazier put up 36 points to lead the team. Well, Reed only had 4 points, but it didn't matter. Jerry West put up 28 points. Will Chamberlain did put up 24 rebounds, but in a losing effort. As the New York Knicks, for the first time in their history, one of the original NBA teams at that, finally got their title in 1970. It was amazing to be a basketball fan in New York and a sports fan in New York in general. Because after all, the Mets won the 1969 World Series, the Jets won the 1969 Super Bowl, and the New York Rangers did not really do well in hockey. They came close in 1970, but if it wasn't for, was it Brad Park's injury? Yeah, Brad Park's injury in 1970. I think the Rangers might have pulled some magic and got to the Stanley Cup Finals. But no, it was still a good time to be a New York sports fan. And all that. Well, the members of the Knicks who played in the championship, well, Willis Reed put up 23 points per game in the 1970 NBA Finals. He only missed Game 6. Dave DeBusschere was there. Dick Barnett, Walt Frazier, Bill Bradley, the legendary Bill Bradley from Princeton. Clyde Frazier, as I talked about in our earlier birthday boy. Cassie Russell, Dave Stallworth, Mike Riordan, Nate Bowman, Bill Hoskett, and John Waring. So those names would be engraved in Knicks history, even like Bowman and Waring. But anyway, this was May the 3rd was the day that Willis Reed said that injury comebacks were possible in a finals series. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.